Almost speechless, Marc Cucurella, winning the Player of the Match award. But they have got a point, Graham, against top opposition. They've been beaten by Manchester City. They've been beaten by Liverpool. The only two defeats this season so far. Do you think it is a sign of progress that they did manage to find a way back against top opponents today?
Yeah, I do. And over the course of the game, I don't think they deserved to lose. They deserved something from the game. It was a hard-fought match, and delighted for Marc Cucurella because he's had a tough start to his career here at Chelsea. Came in with maybe a high fee, and at a time where the team probably wasn't functioning as well as maybe certainly what he was used to. And he had to take some stick here at Stamford Bridge. It was quite hostile at times. So credit to him.
How tough was that for him, and also for you when you were trying to pick a team and work out whether to play him or not?
Yeah, it was a period of time where it was almost you're trying to think, well, if the results aren't going so well, you want to do as much as you can to have the crowd with you. But it was obvious that there was a real dislike for Marc here. So it goes into your thinking about whether to put him in. I remember we played him against Borussia Dortmund in the Champions League, and he was amazing. I think he was man of the match. But so it's a credit to him. He's got the character. You're not going to get a better person in terms of how he is with the teammates, how good he is around the club, around the place, and how he fights every single day. That performance against Saka requires an intensity and a commitment every single day, and he's rewarded for that.
When he first came into English football at Brighton, did you see this development, this player who was going to go on and win European championships?
No. I think that if we have to be honest, I mean, I think we paid 20 million or something for him, less than that. And if you're going to turn that over in a space of 9 months to 60 something million and have the top teams in Europe after him, that's huge credit to him. Like I said, he just came into the team at Brighton. He solved some problems for us in terms of balance on that left side, but his personality is infectious. He's a real good character around the team. He's got fantastic intensity. Not many players can go one-to-one with the likes of Saka and deal with him physically, and Marc does that. And then he's I think he's progressed his game. I think the Euros was great for him. He's not the final third necessarily player, so I think how they've found a role for him now at Chelsea has been really good. Left of a three, sometimes in build-up, sometimes in central midfield. He's better suited to that than he is maybe attacking the back line. But like I said, all-round person, he's amazing.
It was a bold move as well by the manager, wasn't it? Because Reece James played left-back last week. He decides to play him because he probably realised one-on-one defending, he's as good as anybody, and he gets close to Saka. It was a great battle all game between the two of them, and you have to probably say he just edged it.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, you're right. I mean, I think that's where Enzo's got the decision to make about which one of the full-backs he's going to leave out.
And
I think it'll depend on what he wants from the build-up, how he wants the extra player to go in. I still don't think it's perfect for them in that situation at the moment, because sometimes Gusto goes up into the 8 space, and he's maybe not that type of player to receive in between the lines. He's more attacking the back line type player, combinations with Madueke. But yeah, you're right, to leave out Reece, who is he's the captain. He's on his day, he's one of the best, the best players. But I think that he's trying to find his way back into form as well. He's had a long time out, injury. He needs rhythm. He needs a lot of games. So I think it's he'll have his moments and he'll be back again.
There were a couple of big calls from Mikel Arteta in his selection as well today. There was a question over Declan Rice's fitness. He came back into the team, and of course Martin Odegaard playing for the first time in 2 months from the start in the Premier League. Did you like what you saw from Arsenal today, despite the fact it is now 4 without a win in the Premier League for the first time in 18 months?
Yeah, it's hard. Arsenal got a bullseye on their back. They're a big team. They're a big team. Everybody wants to beat them. They're struggling. I find their confidence is a little bit low at the moment. I didn't think it was free-flowing today. I thought it was a bit stoppy start. And when you got confidence goes, not everybody wants the ball. When you watch Arsenal in full flow, everybody's moving. It's like the red arrows. Everybody's wanting the ball. Today, you're seeing it from up here where we've got an unbelievable view, and Partey gets it, or Rice gets it, or Odegaard, and there's not a lot of options. Do you know what I mean? It's not like 5-6 passes. And, you see from the goal when Odegaard nicks the ball, it's only because of his intelligence and his vision. There was only one pass on when he nicks it, and that was out wide again. He's a clever footballer. You know, and it's only good for Arsenal. They've got to get on a run now, got to get consistent. They can reel off 5 or 6 wins. They will have to do
Well,
that.
absolutely. We saw they were perfectly capable of that, didn't we, last season? You spotted, Graham, when you were watching it, that Arsenal will come to the goal in a second, but even before that, the big chance in the first half that fell for Martinelli came from this desire to win the ball high up the pitch.
Yeah, as I said before the game, I thought that'd be a key part of Arsenal's mentality in the game, to try to disrupt the build-up, to try and create a chance when the defences aren't so organised. And I think that's a good example. You can see they've won it high. Probably be disappointed with the finish. Credit to the goalkeeper there. Even this one, they've trapped them on the touchline, win the ball back. This position, Malo Gusto's now high. He makes a great recovery run to get back. They're just a little bit unorganised. Now you can see Gusto coming into the picture. He still gets in a decent position, but there's an overload on the back post with 2v1. It's Odegaard's fantastic vision and
This time he goes
tremendous.
the other way, Martinelli.
yeah. And this time,
What do you think about the goalkeeper there?
Yeah, well,
Well, sorry, Graham. We'll come to that. Jamie, just make this point on Odegaard.
It's just quality. You can just see him there. He wins the ball back. And again here, look at the little movement he makes to help his teammate. That's just football intelligence. He keeps the ball alive. And you can see there, Chelsea tried to hold the edge of the box, but Levi Colwill just steps back a yard. And you can see Martinelli at the back post is onside. Graham's right. There's a 2v1. Gusto's got a problem. He plays a delightful ball into the back post, and then it becomes almost a bit of cat and mouse. Is he going to go for that far corner, or is he going to reverse it into the near post, which he does beautifully? It's a really good finish. Yes, the keeper could do better, but I think sometimes you've got to credit, because I think he just whips it in. It's not an easy one. It's a tough height as well for the goalkeeper. Good piece of play by Martinelli. But what it showed you there is the Odegaard effect. He gives you so much, not just going forward, but winning the ball, pressing high. He's such an important player, and Arsenal's performances will just go up and up, the fact that now he's back in the team.
Any fault on Robert Sanchez there, do you think?
he's the type of goalkeeper that will back himself to give him a bit more space in that near post area. Sometimes we say, I'm talking to myself as if I'm a pundit now, but goalkeepers can't get beat in the near post. But what he'll do is he'll back himself to give himself a bit more space to then give himself a chance to save the one in the back post as well. And in this case,
we saw with the save in the
exactly.
first
But I think in this case he'll be disappointed because even though it's close into his body, knowing him, he'll be a little bit disappointed with that.
It's not the easiest finish either from that angle, is it, Paul?
Goalkeeper made it easier. The goalkeeper made it easier. He can't get beat there. He can't. It's just as simple as that. I'm not a goalkeeper. I've never been a goalkeeper. But if I'm in that position where Martinelli is and he's going to come back on his right foot, it's easy there in the near post. If he bends it in the far corner and he bends it with bend and it hits the post and goes in, sometimes you just got to go, well played, that's talented. But he didn't have to do a lot there. He didn't have to do a lot. You've got to make sure it goes the other way. And I don't know how it works in the dressing room nowadays with the technology. I don't know if someone's had a word with him because the first chance, he does take a chance, doesn't he? Here where we are with the first shot, which is left-footed. When I said in the first half. And I don't know if someone said to him, he's gambled a little bit there. He's gambled, and someone's gone, next time you have a chance, just hit it in your near post. I don't know, might have, but he's got to save that for me.
The equaliser from Chelsea and Pedro Neto, who sort of shrugged off the question from Patrick about moving to the right-hand side and could he actually be more effective in that position. Jamie, what are your thoughts?
He can play both sides. I like this little bit of movement. It looks really simple, but you can just see he cuts back in there. Martinelli doesn't follow him. Now he's behind that midfield of Arsenal's and he hits a great shot. The other problem that Arsenal had is there'd been a corner, and in that situation, Saliba had run out, and you can see that they get a little bit disjointed from a defensive point of view. I'd like to have seen Saliba probably as quick as he could change there, and I think he might have just been quicker to get to the ball than what Timber was, and he's such a big frame that we'll never know. But I always feel like as quickly as you can get your other centre-back back into that position, it would make sense. Would you agree with that, Graham?
Yeah, I would. And in an ideal world, you don't want your centre-back initially going out so wide, and in an ideal world, you want everything to be back organised as quickly as possible, but as things happen quite quickly, that's where the challenges are, because it's the second phase, it's a bit unorganised. As I said, I don't think any team really were that good in terms of being able to create chances when defences were organised. It was when it was in these situations. As you say, I think the credit to Neto, he's recognised Gusto's given him the width. He's recognised he doesn't have to go out wide in that situation. He's found himself in the space, and the advantage of being an opposite foot on the one side means that he's attacking the goal.
Do you think that's the future for Chelsea?
Well, I think he'll
inverted wingers, if you like.
Yeah, I think that's where Enzo would like it to go. I think it opens up to attack central. I can't see them playing same-sided, wingers on that side. I think they want to be able to come inside the pitch, shoot, play into the, the 8s or the 10s. So I think he'll be competing with Madueke in that role.
Yeah, well, we have to. He'd like to hope that Mudryk or Sanchez could hit the hit the ground running, because then they can play out there. He can come this side. At the moment, Madueke plays out there. He's got to play out that side, which I think
he could play Nkunku out there as well, couldn't he? That
yeah,
gives you another
maybe, but
option.
he's not that pacey out and out. They want to open the game up and get it wide and get the wingers running. So yeah, I think Neto. He didn't really run at Ben White, did he? The crowd was starting to get on his back a bit. He was turning back and passing the ball back. When he come out here, he looked much more comfortable, in my opinion.
One big moment right at the death of this game. Was this going to be the winning goal for Arsenal? It was mighty close, Paul.
It was. It would have been interesting. Last kick of the game. Yeah, I mean...
Saliba was mighty close to being offside in the build-up.
Cucurella right in the middle there. Who knows? We can't tell. That his heel, his shoulder. The flag did actually go up.
Flag went up, but it would have had to have gone upstairs, and we'd have had to have waited. But yeah, I mean, Trossard here, he must have got a call. Yeah, for me,
Havertz.
Yeah, it's a.
I bet Trossard scored plenty of good goals for you in that position, hasn't he, Graham?
No, he's not going to leave that. No chance.
Really,
he'll fancy himself to score there.
Sounds like that might be a double blow for England and Lee Carsley, the fitness of Bukayo Saka and Declan Rice. We've had racing cars and spiders in the same interview, but also he's talked about his disappointment about the equalising goal. We have touched on it, Graham, but it comes from the corner. Just, if we see it again, just try and explain for us what he would have wanted to see and what didn't happen.
Well, you can see when the ball first contact now, as it's going wide, the centre-back comes out the pitch.
So this is
in the wide
Saliba
area.
down here,
Saliba now. Ideally, he wouldn't want that. But obviously, he's made the decision to go out, so fine. Now, as the ball's moving in, he'll want that to be organised quicker, for Saliba to go back inside.
You as manager can't get that message on. That has to come from the players, presumably.
Yeah, exactly. And then he'll be probably disappointed with this internal pass here now. The wide player now is to tuck in, not allow that pass, let it go wide again, deal with the cross if it comes in. But that pass internally has killed them.
They had 30 40 seconds to do it. They had enough time. Sometimes things happen and you just have to react to the situation. That's one way Saliba's just got to say, right, Durian, you come here, I'm going to come back into my position. Who knows? Would he have made the block? Would it have made the difference? I would certainly think there'd be a much more chance. Nothing to take away from what obviously Neto did. But I think that was one where... Because Saliba actually ran past the left-back as well, Timber, to go... And I'm just thinking, that's not one... I mean, you made a good header, stay in the position, work on the second ball after that.
But Martinelli has to do better. He can't allow that pass to go inside.
Neto.
If he comes in there and says, right, OK, we'll give you the wide pass, at least he can still have time again to readjust as it is. He stood, allowed the internal pass, and that's a shot. It's a shot in a good position.
He's got flat tyres to worry about. He's got a faulty steering wheel. But let's judge the last week alone. How far, Paul, is Arsenal now in this week? Would you say Inter away and Chelsea away from where they were in the last 2 seasons, really pushing Manchester City all the way?
If you're just working on the last couple of games, they're not far. They won't be far away.
I think they're getting closer.
Yeah, I mean, good performance in Milan. Didn't really look like scoring. Today they come to a difficult place. Some team that are playing well with very, very talented footballers, and we're very comfortable. If I'm being honest, Raya didn't really make any world-class saves. It's a start. It's a base. As he says, he's got to get the players fit now. He's got to get them fully fit. He's got to fill the tank up. That's the main thing. You can have flat tyres, but if you ain't got the diesel or petrol in it, that's the main thing. And that's what he's got to do. He's got to fill them back up again, and they've got to get on a run. They've got to make sure this goes down to 6 points before it gets to 12 points. If it gets to 12, good night. If it gets to 6...
Well, you said it was must-win before the game.
You said they're out. Are they back in it now?
No, I don't think they're back in. I still think they'll do well to catch Liverpool. I do. But if they can get it to 6 before it goes to 12... which is important. When that might be at the end of December. It might stay at 9 till the end of December. But long as it goes to 6 before 12, because if it goes to 12, it's finished. If it goes to 6, then it's hardly anything in it. But Arsenal haven't got a mistake in them. Liverpool have got a mistake in them because they've got such a big lead on Arsenal.
Yeah, but it's going to go all the way because we've already seen that anybody can beat anybody. What Liverpool have in their favour as well, that Arsenal have to go there as well. So that's a big advantage. Going to Anfield is never easy. They've got themselves in a great position. Arne Slot's the big winner this weekend. He'd have looked at that and thought, as long as Arsenal don't win, I'll be delighted. Manchester City losing yesterday, it's been perfect for them. The options he's got, he wants everyone to go away from international break, come back fit and keep it going, keep that momentum because it's such a hard place to go. Graham will know, he's managed there, he's coached there enough times. Right now, the ascendancy is with Liverpool. Who's going to... And I didn't see that happen at the start of the year.
A couple of weeks' time, when we get back from the international break, Liverpool play Man City. Do you know what I mean? So all of a sudden, if Man City go and win that game and then Arsenal win and then it's 6 again. But if Liverpool went and beat Man City, you'd be sitting there as an Arsenal fan thinking, oh no. And how many times have Arsenal ever wanted Man City to beat Liverpool?
Do you see something different about Arsenal?
I think for the first time they've suffered with injuries. I think that's been the big factor for them. Previous the last couple of years, you pretty much know he's been fortunate and they've worked very, very well to have not so much disruption. I think as soon as you lose Odegaard, as soon as you lose your centre-backs that are so the foundation for your team, as soon as you have to make those changes, it's the same with Man City as well. They've had to suffer as well. So I think as soon as you have that challenge, and then you've got Champions League, and then you're playing against teams that haven't got the European challenge as much. Chelsea, I don't think, have the same challenge that the Champions League gives you. All of a sudden, it becomes harder and harder. With the car reference, I think when I was here in the Champions League and Premier League, it was like I needed the RAC and the AA. Never mind that.
The wheels come.
He was bringing spark plugs around. And that was just for you.
Exactly.
Also, the big news from Arsenal this week that Edu is on his way out. And do you see this as being significant news for Arsenal?
It could be worrying. I think, for Arsenal fans, 20-odd years, how long ago? 20 years ago, 25 years ago, David Dein was there. David Dein was working with Arsene Wenger. They were bringing in, the quality of player they were bringing in was off the charts. They were working together. David Dein, Arsene Wenger would probably say to him, I want to get that player, and again, get that player. And it was amazing. Then David Dein left the club. And for me, then after that, I thought some of the standard of the players that went in at Arsenal weren't good enough, nowhere near good enough. And it sort of took a lull and never really in the title race. All of a sudden, Arteta comes in, Edu comes in, they work together. And the quality of player they brought in, I see the list of players they bought since Edu's been there. Everybody's been a success. Everybody's been really outstanding. And that would be my worry because it's such a big thing now. It's hard enough to be a manager in the Premier League, but you can't do it. You can't be spinning plates as well, going to watch football matches, going to do that, trying to get that player. You've got to have someone who works with you. I mean, Graham will probably be able to tell you better, but I'm sure that is one of the most important parts of the game.
That relationship.
That
Have
relationship.
to have the relationship.
Is it, Graham, how important is the role of a sporting director in modern Premier League football?
Yeah, I think Paul's alluded to it there. It's just that alignment with recruitment, because if you continually make good decisions in recruitment, you've got a chance with the environment, you've got a chance with your team. If you make the wrong decision, you've got the opposite, and it's problems. So I think it always works in tandem. You need good people, you need good recruitment, but you also need good coaching. I think Mikel's done that really well. He's created an environment there at Arsenal. There's standards, there's a clear way of they want to play. And then that provides it. That makes it easier for the recruitment team to do their work and make good decisions. Ultimately, whoever comes in has to be aligned with Mikel, and has to be on the same wavelength. Take the pressure off Mikel and take the workload off him, but they still need to be aligned and making the same decisions.
100%.
But
every manager has to have that. You have to have the final say. You don't mind if your director of football gives you 3 players, and then you say, well, look, we've got 3 left backs here. Which one do you want? I think that's how most managers and coaches will want to work now. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think that's how it is. The trick is...
Was that the way at Brighton?
Yeah, to a certain extent it was. Yeah, like I said, the challenge is if you want to make real good depth decisions in recruitment, if you're the first team coach, your job here for Mikel is he's got 25 players that he needs to prepare for and prepare the games to play Premier League football. That's his main job. So how much time can he devote to making a really, really good in-depth decision to support all the recruitment sort of work that goes on behind the scenes. It's not easy. I think that's where you'd have to rely on, say, an Edu, or rely on somebody to do that thinking for him to make that decision, because otherwise you can end up thinking, okay, the worst thing for the club is they hand over 3 players. Come on then, Mikel, make the decision here, and he's in the middle of preparing to play at Manchester City, and he's like, well, what's going on here? How can I give this the weight that it deserves?
And I think the big advantage was Edu played for Arsenal. It makes I think that goes a long way, because it's different playing for big football clubs. There's a lot of pressure playing for big football clubs, and you're putting players in that you got to think, right, do they suit the way we play? Can they handle playing for a big club? You know, because we're looking at Arsenal drawing at Chelsea. I mean, that's a good result, but it's Arsenal. And you're thinking, well, they should go and win this game.
We're judging it purely because they were in runners-up in the last couple of years.
No, exactly. But that's where it takes you. That's why, because they're a big football club and they're a big team. And I think that helps. You know, you look at Man United, you put their recruitment to Arsenal's, it's chalk and cheese. There's some of the players that have come in at Man United and you're thinking, have they been good? Are they good enough to play for Man United? Have they got the right temperament to play for Man United? Were they good enough with the teams they were playing before they come to Man United? Now they're coming to a massive football club. All that stuff. This, you know, I hope they get it right, but it would be a big miss with Edu. Big miss.
Outside, just moving away from Arsenal slightly, Graham. You know, outside of football, I think people look at Brighton as the ideal scenario, as the sort of model of how to go about it with recruitment and sporting directors. How different is it at Brighton to how it worked here at Chelsea?
Well, to start with, Tony Bloom has been a chairman for 10 years. He's owned the club for 10 years, something like that. So he's a fan, so he understands the club, understands the team, and then he's got a strong data model that influences every single decision that the club makes. To have something like that, to take the subjectivity, to take emotion out of the game. So, you know, at these big clubs, and more so than most, if you win, you're good, and if you lose, it's a disaster. And sometimes you need to be able to make better decisions than that. You need to be able to see, okay, what's the performance like? How can we make better decisions in the short term, medium term, long term? How can we be logical? How we can use information to make... Because you can't get caught up in that up and down nature of football, because then you can make some bad decisions. So I think that's the big advantage that they have. And because he's so objective, he just sort of calms everything down. The supporters trust him. If he employs a 31-year-old coach because he thinks that's a good idea to do, everybody believes in it. Everybody supports it. I think if you haven't got that trust at leadership level, it can be quite difficult. And I think that's the biggest thing that they've got.
Is that a bigger advantage, though, at Brighton? Because at Brighton, it gives you time. You know, you bring a player in at Brighton, if they haven't got that massive pressure of no disrespect, it's not a Chelsea, it's not a Man United, it's not an Arsenal. They come in at Brighton and there's not as much pressure on them, do you know what I mean, at the time, and it gives them more time to hit the ground running. You go in at Man United off the cuff, you know, like Mount, people like that, they get behind the 8 ball. It's hard to get from behind the 8 ball at a big club like that. But at Brighton, you do get that little bit more time.
Just to touch on Edu, and I feel he will be a miss for Arsenal. But maybe not as big as probably what Arsenal think, because if they wanted to keep him, I'm sure they could have given him the money to make sure that he stayed and not go to Nottingham Forest.
Yeah, maybe.
So maybe they think to themselves, and Mikel Arteta backs himself.
If that was what it was about, the suggestion he's gone to a chief executive role as opposed to a sporting director.
I feel that if you can go and get the right person, anyone would want to work for Arsenal. You know, Mikel Arteta does feel to me that he's the sort of guy that's going to want to control things himself as well.
Is that a negative?
Yeah, but not necessarily. That's the way I quite like. Everyone has their own view on football. I quite like a manager to be in charge of the signings, because one thing for sure, if they're wrong, only one person gets the sack, and that's the manager. The director of football, the chief exec, they stay, and the manager then is on his way. But you've got to have a real say in what you want.
Is the problem with that, Graham? If that manager's allowed to sign those players who don't work, and he is then sacked, the new manager comes in and inherits the players that he doesn't actually want.
Yeah, and it's almost a vicious circle. I understand what Jamie's sort of alluding to. I think I almost think it's a balance. At Brighton, it was always almost like a traffic light situation. It was like you needed green for, does the manager like it, does the recruitment team like it, does the scouts like it, does the data like it. If there's a yes in all of them, then they'll sign him up. I don't think if I'd have turned around and said no, I really don't like the play, I really can't see how the player fits in. It'd be hard for the club to make the signing.
My point is, I've been at clubs when a manager has no idea that someone's just been signed. That can't happen. So you have to have some kind of dialogue with the manager and the chief exec or the director that says this is the player we're going to bring in. We like him. He fits the profile of the club. He's young. He's a good footballer. That all makes sense. But I thought that Mikel Arteta will certainly find another Edu very quickly.
I don't think it's an easy job. I think you know it goes under the radar. I think with Wilcock now at Man United, I think it will change. You know, when they're there now, that kind of player, you're not going to be paying £80 million for Anthony anymore. Them days are long gone. They'll be doing their own work. They'll be doing it. I just because of what happened before with the David Dein situation, it's hard. And the big advantage was Edu played for the club. He was a top player as well. I'm not saying because you're a top player, that's it. But he knew the kind of player they needed, and they always went out and got the right player. It was like, right, we need a centre half. We're going to get a centre half. They put Saliba on loan for 2 years.
I know, but they nearly signed.
2 years.
And who knows what he's going to end as a player?
They nearly
signed Mudryk.
They nearly did.
You know, and they didn't. And they went, well, that's too much money now. Let's go and get Trossard instead. So they, you know, who knows?
Yeah, but at least they went. It was too much money. They didn't go. Oh, right, we want him. We'll just keep on going and going, and we'll go and pay over the top.
Just to finish on this, Graham, because I asked the question about the balance between, or the difference between Brighton and Chelsea, and you sort of talked about Brighton taking the emotion out of it. With Chelsea, do you feel there is too much emotion around the decision making?
Not necessarily, but I think you've got new owners, new sport director. You've had that over the last two years, a real an attempt to transform a team, transform a culture. And I think the thing that we're all talking about really, it's trust. You need trust. So Brighton have trust because of Tony's data model. If you look at Man City, they trust the recruitment that's gone on there because Pep and Sheiki have had a close relationship. So there's a big trust there. Jurgen at Liverpool have done some really good work. I think here with Mikel and Edu, there's, all of a sudden there's trust at decision making. I think for the last 2 years at Chelsea, there's probably been a lack of that because probably it's hard for people to see, hang on a minute, it's Chelsea, we should be winning the Champions League, but the owners have gone down a different strategy, which is to invest in younger players. By doing that, all of a sudden the club's a little bit not quite getting the results that they want to get, and while that's happening, everyone's like, this is painful, we don't like this, we used to winning. And at Chelsea, you have to see that you're gonna win. And for the last 2 years, probably because of the change, because of the turbulence, they were not in a position to do that. Hopefully, going forward, there will be.
Graham, it's been fascinating hearing you talk a little bit about the recruitment models of Brighton, and we started off by talking about the absence of Edu moving forward for Arsenal. What does the recruitment model here at Chelsea actually look like now? Well,
I think they've identified that they want to sign young players. They want to build a team that has got a lot of growth in it. That's how they've, apart from the first window that the new owners came in, I think they've switched to a more younger player profile. They've got a coach that has a clear style of play. So then at every point in the windows now, they'll be making decisions in terms of, okay, what sort of qualities do we need on the pitch, but also what qualities do we need off the pitch, because that's the bit around building a team. It is about the talent, but it's also about what you can bring as a person, how you can handle the situation here at Chelsea. Because in the end, you have to win. Chelsea expect you to win, so they need to be able to grow to that, or they have to look for solutions in terms of, can we bring anybody from outside that can help them win? As the guy in charge, as the guy whose head is ultimately on the block, did you have the same power of veto here at Chelsea that you would have had at Brighton in terms of recruitment? I would say it was to a certain extent similar. I think at both clubs it was led by the clubs. I think my job as a head coach was to try to support the club's decision as best as I could. Obviously, as a head coach, you want to influence the decision making and give your information. And at the end of the day, everyone's giving bits of data, and the first team coach, the head coach, the manager's role is to be able to say, okay, what do we need? What does the team look like? How can we make it better? And then in the end, the club makes a decision, whether it was Tony as a chairman, but also the new owners here sort of were also strong in terms of having their ideas about what they wanted to do. Would Tony do it the same way as what Chelsea do it? Would he ever think of doing it the way Chelsea are doing it, where they're giving everybody 6, 7, 8 year contracts? Why are they doing that? Are they doing that as an investment to say, right, we'll buy him 7 year? Are they looking to move them players on at Chelsea? No, not necessarily. I think they'll be looking to, as I said, grow grow as a team. They're at the right age so that they can get better. That would be the aim, to improve. So, yes, that they'll be on longer contracts. Probably the salary will be lower. They wanted to change the salary position from high salaries, older players, to maybe lower salaries, younger players. So that'll be the thinking, and they won't expect them to lose value. The players, because of the age, they'll always be able to maybe move them on if they're playing in the Premier League. I mean, Madueke, for example, came for sort of 30 million. I think if you sold him now, you'd get more than that for him. There'll be others that haven't progressed as much, and this is the trick. I think the trick is you only really perform, and you only really grow, and you only add value as a player if you're playing. So you don't have value if you're the 19th or the 20th player in the squad because you're not getting minutes. So it's getting the players, creating the right pathway for them to play. Probably the difference with Brighton and what Tony would sort of appreciate would be the older player that's maybe for free,
like a
Lallana, a Welbeck.
Sorry, Graham, if you were to say Tony Bloom, and you're obviously a huge fan of how he runs the club, explain a little bit about what the data would be to maybe buy a player, maybe Caicedo, or even a Danny Welbeck, where you'd look at him and maybe go, well, he wasn't doing maybe well at Watford, but we'll take him because we can see his attributes. How much detail do they go into to make sure they get it right?
Yeah, it's so much detail, and it's AI, it's artificial intelligence, it's computers will generate the number, they'll do the work, so then they'll just back that humans have biases in their brain. They'll see things, they'll look at something like Danny Welbeck and write him off because maybe he's been injured or whatever else, and then they'll say, yeah, but actually there's a measurement, we can objectively measure what he actually does on the pitch, and therefore can we put a value to that, and therefore we can make good decisions in terms of whether football's valuing something or not, and we can then find the value in the market.
How would you quantify Paul Merson? Like, unbelievable talent, a little bit loose.
Yeah.
Wild man.
Bit of a maverick. I mean, when Dad signed you for Portsmouth, I mean,
Yeah.
it was took a, I wouldn't say a gamble, but one of the best gambles he's ever had because of how well you did there, bringing him up.
Yeah, and I think that's
That was for you, that question.
Oh, for me?
Yeah.
Yeah, safe,
Graham
isn't
as
it?
well.
Safe.
Safe bet.
No, I don't know. That's why I was fascinated. I was just sitting here then, I was thinking, you put all their numbers together, and I like Welbeck. But you're thinking, he's just been let go of Watford. They're in the Championship.
He scored 3 in 20.
He hasn't scored a lot of goals, even through his whole career. He's been at Man United and Arsenal. I can add that up. You've got to be decent if you're going to play for them too. And then to bring him in and do what he's done is just like, it's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
It's
But
mind-blowing.
I think you can't really get bogged down with recruitment as such. Recruitment's a part of it. You have to say with Danny, it's about, him training hard every day, finding a periodisation model that helps keep him fit. Then you're looking at, hopefully good coaching. I was quite good.
Yeah.
De Zerbi was quite good.
Still are.
Percy was quite good. All of a sudden...
And that's all part of the data process as well, isn't it? Finding the best coaches.
Your job is to improve. If it wasn't for data, I wouldn't have got the job at Brighton.
Well, Herzl, that's a great example. He's 31 years of age. He hadn't managed in Bundesliga. He took a club into the Bundesliga, but how you can sort of quantify what his talent is and how good he is and how much he makes his team run. And also, the most important thing is, can you handle the intensity and the pressure of the Premier League? That's almost something that you cannot look at a computer to
It's
do.
a bit like Paul saying,
Psychometric
you can't necessarily know that so much. Yeah, that's an option.
Did you do that? Did you do that at Brighton when you got the job? Did they do personality tests?
No, one of the things that they look at, obviously they looked at my education, they can see the sort of person I am in terms of studied and how I dealt with the situation at Swansea. But like I said, most football clubs wouldn't employ Graham Potter finishing 10th in the Championship to get a job in the Premier League. They just wouldn't. But Tony Bloom has got enough data behind that. This is just, we think he's at this level, so therefore we'll give him an opportunity. The risk for him was, how does he deal with the Premier League? And that'll be the same with Fabian, and Tony will sort of think about that as well.
Let's show you what the Chelsea strategy has actually led to in terms of this being the youngest ever Premier League side right now. They haven't played a player older than 27 all season, back to that conversation on the likes of Milner and Welbeck and the like. So 2,349 days. We've also got another graphic to show the youngest ever title winners. So Chelsea 23 right now. When Mourinho arrived at this club, that first season to deliver the title, they were 25 and 250 days. So more than 2 years older than this Chelsea side right now. And that is the youngest average age of any title-winning team. Do you think this strategy can lead to that, can lead to titles and glory for Chelsea?
Yeah, I think so. I think they can be optimistic for sure. I think, like I said, it's a slightly different strategy because I think those teams that we see there, even though the average age is 25, you'll probably have some 30-year-olds or 31 or 29s just to bring the average up. Chelsea are doing it a different way, so everyone's at the same age but still young. And I suppose that's the bit that they're going to have to decide from themselves. Do we need at some point someone with a bit more know-how, someone in a key position that can help off the pitch, etc., etc.? It doesn't feel like that at the moment, but you never know. I think they're smart enough people to be able to assess and go, OK, maybe we need this at the moment.
Do you think, Jamie, it's a question of you've seen those graphics, it's a question of patience for everyone here at Chelsea? The hope is that they all grow together and develop, but they're 2 years away, it suggests, from fighting for the title.
Yeah, I guess so, but they've got a lot of quality as well. We look at the players that you can bring off the bench and the players at your disposal that are starting the match. A little bit of experience, I think, always goes a long way as well. You look at the two surprises to me were Blackburn when they won it, and also Chelsea. I would have just guessed that they'd have been older. I think probably a young John Terry, a young Frank Lampard. I do think you need a balance, and if the right player comes along, and I always think that's where Data would come in, that's going to just add to maybe a centre back with a little bit of experience that could come in on certain occasions. I think you'll be all for that. But right now, they'll look at it and go, we're going along very steadily, we're going along well. At the start of the year, I didn't foresee it being as good as what it is already. And that's credit to the manager. I think that he's worked with the players. Because when you've got a group of players, you don't always want to, when I've been over this before, but you don't want too many at your disposal because you're keeping a lot of unhappy players. But he seems to have managed it pretty well. And they're in a really good position so far.
The conference helps. The conference helps. You know, playing Thursday, that whole group played. They're not in that conference. They don't play that week.
How do you feel to be in that group yourself, if you were in that conference group as opposed to the league team?
I think you've got a chance of fighting in. You've got to start performing, but at least you're playing competitive games. You're not coming in and you're doing box to boxes and not being involved. At least you're getting a game, you know, and the longer you stand. That was what shocked me about the Newcastle game in the Cup. I just thought people were going, oh, Chelsea didn't need that. I thought they did need that. I thought staying in the Cup, because their squad's so big, you've got to keep these players happy, and that was. I think that helps him is the Euro Conference, definitely.
He almost alluded to it there in his interview. Well, he did allude to it with Patrick there, Enzo Maresca. He's left out Reece James today, who's the captain of the club. Plus, he's left out huge money signings in Mudryk and Enzo Fernandez, among others. Is that the challenge, being the Chelsea head coach right now, keeping all these players happy and working in the right direction together?
I think that's the challenge in the Premier League because everyone wants to play. Everyone's disappointed when they don't play. So you have to manage the disappointment. You have to manage the ego. And obviously, as you go higher and higher, the clubs that are expected to win, there's more challenge. I think if you ask Pep or you ask Mikel, they'd rather have lots of players and lots of competition and lots of problems in that way, rather than what they've got at the moment, which is 4 centre backs out, Rodri out, etc., etc., etc. So it's about the balance. You need the right competition. You need the right circumstances, right stability, not too many, not too few, and I think they're absolutely getting there.
And the captain today was Moises Caicedo, and I want to bring him up because we were just discussing this in the break. Give us one example then of, you know, he made his debut under you at Brighton. How Brighton spotted that talent and brought him to the Premier League.
It would have been a combination of data, bless you, a combination of data and scouting, and then also there's always a personality report as well. So you do a lot of your work on the ground. What type of person is he? What type of character is he? Will he be able to adapt to being away from his family? What will he be like, you know, going from South America to the UK? All these things you've got to take into consideration because all we do now really is we just watch the guys for 90 minutes on a football pitch and we make our decisions and we make our opinions on that. But actually these guys have got so much to deal with off the pitch that you have to gather as much information as possible. You know, okay, you've seen a guy do this in this environment, but what does that mean if you go and take him into here? You know, how does the guy react from playing in Brighton, where the team's functioning really well, in Marc Cucurella's case, into a team that's still forming and still trying to work themselves out? Okay, well, how will that affect, and what will happen to the player in the short term?
How many times would they have watched Caicedo play football when they highlighted him and they've seen the numbers? How many times would they have gone and watched him in big games where he played in his country, home and away?
Probably not as many as you think, but they'll have a lot of data on him. So therefore, the data is where the most information comes in. That's where the most information is. And then they'll go, because sometimes you can go and watch a player for 1 or 2 games and he might have a bad game. And then all of a sudden all that work's gone because you've got a bias in your head as a human being. Well, he's played bad and he's not very good.
Yeah,
but the data, but sometimes 6 months of data to say he's a top player.
But there's sometimes you can watch a game and someone can have a bad game, but they keep on looking to get the ball.
Yeah.
Data won't tell you that. Do you know what I mean? You can come and watch someone and they can have a bad game and they start.
You might say they've had a lot of touches.
And they start hiding. Do you know what I mean? And there's other players who not playing well, but they still look for the ball. data won't sort of tell you that, will it?
Sometimes you look at, sorry, Jamie, sometimes you look at players and you go, okay, what they're like in the warm-up. What's the body language like when they're on the bench? What's the body language like when... Because data doesn't tell you that either.
Yeah.
That tells you about their character, it tells you about their personality, how they're going to deal with stuff. So it's quite a big, it's not just data.
I think as well, I was just saying, I suppose that's always the danger when coaches and owners of clubs talk about buying players after a World Cup, because that's sometimes you don't get a fair reflection of them, what they're doing during the season. Maybe they've saved themselves for the World Cup. How many times we see it, someone, you sign them and they don't play well for the club.
We've got 45 seconds. What's the best that Chelsea can hope for?
Top 4 and win the Europa. That means they'd have won every European competition. The only team ever to do it.
Nice clean sweep. What's the best that Arsenal can hope for?
Well, they're out of it. He said they're out of it.
They've got to get it down. They've got to get it down to 6 points before it gets to 12. If they can get it down to 6, whenever that may be, it might even be January, might even be February, then they're back in it.
Are they in the race?
They're in the race, yeah.
Yeah, 3-horse race. 3-horse race. Man City, Arsenal and Liverpool. Obviously.
Where are you putting your colours right now?
Where would I like to? I'd like to be in Liverpool shoes right now. Done a great job. Slot's done a good job. So many good forwards that can come on and change a game. They are in the ascendancy, but they've got to get all these two other sides have got to get their players fit. But right now, Liverpool are the favourites.
Feels like the break is coming at just the right time, perhaps, for Manchester City and Arsenal.